Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, May 31st. It's Wednesday. It's a 7-game main slate overall in total. As you guys see, I'm not by myself today. We do have Woody back on. He is StatJox Woody over on Twitter. Check out Daily StatJox over there. How you doing today, Woody?
I'm doing good, man. I just finished up right before I jumped on here with the early slate rundown. Got that published and stuff, but yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty busy day between the early slate and the main slate, and I'm excited to get into it. I know before we came on here, we were talking a little bit about some edges that we're already seeing, so excited to hear your expanded views on the slate and get into some specific plays and stacks, etc.
Yeah, it's always good to have kind of an extra perspective too, and obviously bringing yourself on who does a lot of projections and everything else like that, and even with your simulation where you're running simulations multiple times and trying to figure out the most likely thing to happen at the same time. I think last week we had like one person that said, "Oh, the video is too long" or whatever, but I'm like, well, most of them are pretty short. So, but just adding some extra perspective. Everybody else seemed to enjoy it pretty much though. So if anybody is out there, if they got any questions just in general for today's main slate, feel free to drop them in the live chat. If you're watching live, if you're watching a replay, throw them down in the comments. But going to take a basic structure of kind of like what I do in the past, do a little bit of a recap of yesterday, go through some of my core picks. Maybe we can get some of Woody's thoughts here and there. Go over to the bottom half of the cheat sheet, talk about some of the top stacks that I do have for today. Doesn't look like weather is going to be a major concern, so we're not going to really touch on that one. The only weather that was a little bit of rain today was in Chicago, which is on the earlier slate, which still doesn't look like it's going to be much of a factor at this point in time. So I'm going to bring up the recap here since I didn't do it already for yesterday. So yesterday was a pretty interesting day. It was an all right day. I'm not like writing home too much about anything, but pitcher had Bryce Elder at $10,400, got 38 points. I did give him a hit yesterday. He ended up being like the fifth pitcher in terms of fantasy points yesterday. Obviously, we had Miles Mikolas kind of have a career day yesterday. Who else was up there? There's somebody else. Kodai Senga was up there, and then somebody else that didn't really expect at that point. But so he wasn't a bad play by any means. Obviously, going against Oakland with the little stream that we had yesterday, I liked him over that 5.5 strikeouts. Only ended up with 5. He pitched 7 innings, so that was my unfortunate one hit on miss on the props yesterday. I was kind of excited when it was 2 for 2 before that, but that's why if you're playing on Prize Picks, if you're playing on these other sites that you can kind of flex or use the insurance, definitely helps out to have that sometimes. But with that being said, let's see where we're at. So Wilson Contreras, $2,700. That was just a case of me buying the history versus Zach Greinke. Contreras really hasn't been doing that much as of late. Was 0 for 3 yesterday, so it did end up as a mess. Kendall Marte at second base, he was $3,000. He had a home run yesterday, so he got 18.7 points. He was ahead, ended up being the third overall second baseman in terms of points yesterday. Royce Lewis, who was pretty popular, $2,000, got to 19.2 points, so they give him his as well. Decent point performance for somebody that was the minimum price tag. And then last but not least, I had TJ Friedel there, who had a home run versus Brian Bayo in his career before that. Fortunately, went 0 for 3 yesterday. He got 3.5 points, and he did end up getting injured in that game. So that was a little unfortunate there. A little bit of hit or miss day there. Hopefully you guys did pretty well yesterday. Some of the stacks mixing and matching did all right for myself. Obviously, there was some leverage plays that probably could have been a little bit better. I know when we were talking on the other stream, I did talk about the Cincinnati stack as a little bit of leverage, which ended up being, in the middle of the pack more or less yesterday, really. But as we kind of move from there, going to go over to kind of the core picks that I do have for today. So let me bring up FanDuel at this point in time. So it's going to be a pretty interesting slate. I know prior to the stream, we were talking about how, pitching's not that great today. 4-core pitcher today. I got Hunter Brown. He's $10,500. He's been really solid so far this year. Still, I believe he's still got rookie classification headed into this season. I don't remember how many innings exactly he pitched last season. But he's going against Minnesota Twins today. The Twins are a team that does strike out a ton, which has been seen over time and time again. Hunter Brown, his first start versus them this year, he had 52 fantasy points, 7 innings. I believe he only gave up 2 hits in that game. So pretty strong performance out of him. He looks like kind of that top of the line pitcher today. Everybody else kind of looks like they got a little bit more hit or miss upside. I'm not sure if you have any specific thoughts about Hunter Brown today, though, Woody.
I'm fine with Hunter Brown. I think that there's a few other guys for me personally that are in his same projection range that are going to be a little cheaper, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I mean, if you look at ownership, about 25% projected, like
That's
that's
not bad.
fine. Like, I, like he's not someone that I'm going to be super, super excited about, but like I'm absolutely fine with, having him in core plays or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm on the other side of that one because I'm not. I just
Mhm.
don't have a strong opinion on him one way or another.
I think on today's slate, he's probably going to end up being kind of like that safest pitcher just because you're looking at the matchup versus Minnesota. You're looking at what he's done most of the season. He's been pretty good. So, he's got the warranted price tag at 10,500, but it's not like one of these slates where it's a smaller slate and they're just boosting him up to like $11,200 for no reason to.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right there. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. Is the word safest? He is going to have the highest floor today, um, and it's one of those things where a couple of guys miss that are cheaper and drawing a little bit of ownership, and all of a sudden he's in the optimal or he's in the winning lineup. Like it's not crazy to think that he'll help you win a GPP. It's not crazy to think that he's the top cash play today.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm right there with you. I will talk as we get going here a little bit about some pitchers I have projected similarly with a little lower price tag, if I
Mhm.
can talk today. But
Yep.
but yeah, I mean that's really my thoughts on Brown. Core play, fine. That's fine with me. Don't love him, don't hate him. He's just there.
Yeah, it kind of feels like last week when we were on, where it was kind of like Bryce Miller was, he was probably a little bit more overpriced at that point in time, but he ended up being the top pitcher on the slate that week. But Brown's drawn a good chunk more ownership than I think Bryce Miller was on that day. Bryce Miller's probably more around 5%. You're saying around 25% for Hunter Brown, which probably feels pretty right on this slate, just if I'm guessing off the bat too as well.
Yeah. Miller had a nice upside game last week, and
Mhm.
hopefully for you, Brown could do that for you and everybody plugging in the core plays today. But um, yeah, just other guys that I'm interested in as well that I'm sure we'll get to in a couple minutes here. I'll let you finish out your core plays.
Yeah, if my buddy Dan's listening out there, whether you're live on replay, he'll probably be like, Hunter Brown's my long lost cousin, so I'm going to play him today. He always does that with anybody with the last name Brown, so it's always a shout out to him. But so as we're moving along with core plays, got a little bit more money invested today for me personally. In these ones, I try to leave a little bit more money on the table, especially if you're going to go out and play all five. But you don't have to play all five together as we're kind of talking through things. If you're trying to just stack two teams, definitely makes some sense there as well. Pete Alonso is another guy that stands out. He's $4,000, 15 for 43 with 5 home runs in his career versus Aaron Nola. One of the better hitter versus pitcher matchups on the board today. He's the only guy that's got 5 home runs versus the pitcher he's going against. Nola's kind of been really hit or miss this year. Not on the good side and typically struggles against the Mets, but every once in a while he'll throw in a good start against the Mets, so it just kind of keeps you on your toes there. Alonso's been a little bit more up and down, but better as of late, though. So this is somebody that I do like today. $4,000, maybe a little bit more than I like to pay for him, but with the upside there versus Nola, definitely does make a little bit of sense. Let's see. As we keep moving down, I have Ryan McMahon here at $3,000. You can play him at second base. You can play him at third base. This is probably arguably the hottest hitter in baseball the last 4 or 5 days. So I don't mind the matchup against Tommy Henry. He's 2 for 3 versus him in his career. Tommy Henry is a lot of slates a pitcher that I like to go against, but on today's slate, Henry looks okay compared to what he normally does, at least for my perspective. But just a little bit of something there. But with Ryan McMahon, I just like the upside that he's been presenting as of late. $3,000, not a bad price tag. And, going against Henry, who he does have limited sample size versus, but at least that sample size is good on today's slate overall. I know you guys didn't like Colorado too much yesterday, but I said if you're playing Colorado, Ryan McMahon's kind of got to play at this point in time, it seems like. Let's see. As we keep moving down here, we have Matt Chapman, who is 2 for 2 with 2 home runs in his career versus Julio Teheran, who's pitching for the Brewers. So don't mind that whatsoever. $3,600. Chapman obviously had the crazy good start to the season. Hasn't been quite as good as of late, but still like the upside that's there. It's good pitcher versus hitter matchup. Teheran actually pitched well the first time around, which maybe a little bit of surprise since he hasn't pitched in the majors since 2021, where he only made one start. So that is something to keep in mind. He wasn't the greatest in AAA, although there was a couple of blow-up starts in there when he was pitching for the minor league affiliate of the Padres. Like Chapman today, like some of these Blue Jays hitters just in general. And then last but not least, I got Starling Marte down here. He's at only $2,700 right now for a guy that, throughout his career has been a pretty above average hitter. 9 for 24 with 1 home run versus Aaron Nola in his career, and he's starting to turn it around a little bit as of late. So I like some of these Mets hitters going against Aaron Nola, but those are kind of the 4 hitters I have at this point in time. If you have any specific thoughts, be sure to let me know as well, Woody.
Yeah, I like all 4 of them. Alonso projects the highest out of the 4. I don't think that's much of a surprise.
Yeah.
Just over 12 points on FanDuel. Marte projects the second highest. The projections do like the Mets against Nola quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be one where it's going to be like a safe stack or anything, but it likes him for a reason. I won't dive too deep into that, but Marte is one of the top values on the slate for me. McMahon and Chapman both over 9.5 points, so they're right up there as well. So dig all 4 of the core plays there. Think they should do well tonight.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Obviously, the goal of the video is to go 5 for 5, but it's baseball. There's always randomness to it and everything else like that. Is there anybody you like to highlight kind of as core plays for today in general?
Let me see. Highest projected. Oof. Man, we were talking about that matchup with the Brewers before we jumped on the stream. I got Rowdy Tellez as the highest projected player on the slate. In terms of value, Rowdy Tellez, Pavin Smith, Kim with the Padres, Emmanuel Valdez, Tristan Cassis, Trey Turner, John Birdie. So if I'm talking about cash type core, I would probably say Tellez, Pavin Smith, Devers, and Trey Turner.
And even when you're talking through some of those names, it just kind of shows, the 7-game slate, a little bit more interesting names than probably a lot of people are used to hearing too on most slates. So that's going to add a little bit to tonight, just in general, kind of mix and match, and will be obviously something that plays a little bit bigger factor, I do believe, tonight.
Yeah, and something that, while I'm going through this and talking about, cores, the Red Sox are popping. Just in terms of value, I'm looking at the first page of the value. I went ahead and sorted by value on the StatChalk's projections, and the first page, we had Valdez, Cassis, and Devers all pop up. So Red Sox could definitely be interesting.
Oh, for sure. And kind of on that point too, I'm going to go over to the bottom half of my cheat sheet, talk about some of those top team stacks. Seems like what we kind of talked about so far, some of the guys that are popping for you, some of the guys some of the teams that I do like today are going to be kind of similar to just in general. So I know we talked a lot about the Mets already, and the Mets do have really good history, or their hitters do have pretty good history versus Aaron Nola in the past. Aaron Nola's kind of been really hit or miss this season. But like I said, every once in a while you get that start in there versus the Mets where he just goes out and he has a good, strong start because he's still Aaron Nola at the end of the day, and he'll still put up 40 points here and there. But do like the Mets just in general with the history they got. Guys like Pete Alonso's got really good history versus some Starling Marte, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo. Those are just ones to name a few. Obviously, Francisco Alvarez has been hitting the ball pretty well as of late. I know we were talking a little bit about him prior to the stream. You really like his over total bases because it's like 0.5 right now, and he's projected to hit in the 2-hole is what you were seeing. So a lot of value that could potentially be there for the Mets just in general today. Red Sox, you mentioned a little bit. I like the Red Sox going against Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver's never really turned out to be the pitcher that he was once expected to be a long time ago, back when he was with the Cardinals, and he's been with, about 3 or 4 teams since then. So kind of unfortunate for him. He had that one good season, flashed a little bit there, but I do like the Red Sox just in general. Some of their hitters have decent history versus him, smaller sample size though as well. Uh, like you said, you mentioned Devers. I like him. I like Kiki Hernandez a little bit today too, because he's got a little bit of decent history versus Luke Weaver. You can play at second base, you can play him at shortstop, you can play him in outfield. So a lot of versatility there too, just in general. He's always a guy that seems like he's never as highly owned as you would expect, just in general too. As we're kind of talking through the other two teams that I did put in my cheat sheet, Blue Jays going against Julio Teheran. Like I said before, there's not a lot of history versus him, but like Matt Chapman's 2-for-2 with 2 home runs versus him. Brandon Belt's actually an interesting play versus Julio Teheran today. He's 8-for-20 with like 4 home runs versus him, but he left last night's game in the 8th inning due to a stomach illness. So we'll see if he even ends up playing today. But yeah, I believe he's sitting in the 4 or 5 hole yesterday. So if he does that again today, and then you're looking at a good matchup and he's not sick anymore, at $2,500, that could be a pretty interesting kind of play. I don't think a lot of people are probably going to be on that one as well. Definitely like some of those Blue Jays hitters just in general, mixing and matching. And Belt's really just the only one that has a long history versus Teheran, obviously, since Teheran hasn't pitched since 2011 outside of one start. And, once upon a time was a really good pitcher. Hasn't been that in a little while. And then the other one that I do have, I like the Padres today going against Braxton Jarrett for the Miami Marlins. Braxton Jarrett's kind of one of those guys. He either has like a really good start or he just kind of implodes. There's kind of really no in between. It seems like a lot of pitchers like that on today's slate overall. The Padres have decent history versus him, although it is a very, very small sample size history at that. So I believe, God, I'm trying to think of who all there was. I know Fernando Tatis has hit a home run versus him in the past, but a lot of different hitters that I do like in there. You'd mentioned Kim. He's hitting pretty well as of late. He's at $2,700. I believe he's shortstop and third base eligible still. So definitely do like him. If you want to go after Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, Xander Bogaerts, I threw a couple of different ones in my cheat sheet with it being the smaller slate. And I do like the matchup just in general today. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of top stacks. I know we got a couple that overlap there. If you got anything else that you want to mention, be sure to let me know as well.
Yeah, I'm on Boston as my top stack today. Sort by 10 plus runs, and Arizona is the top stack. Sort by under 5 runs, and Boston's the top stack with Arizona too. So those two are just kind of 1A and 1B, I guess you could say, Boston and Arizona. After that, it gets a little more murky. We are going to, looks like, have significant ownership on Boston, Arizona, and Toronto, as well as Philly.
Philly's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, those are the 4. Those are the 4 that grade out as the highest 10 runs for me, and they also all project negative leverage because they're going to be high enough owned. So that could change as we get closer to lock. Oftentimes it does with lineups coming out and stuff. The ownership projections do change quite significantly. But, really talking in terms of leverage for GPPs, take any one of those 4 and pair them with either Cincinnati or the Mets for me. Cincinnati and the Mets are both, those are 5-6 in terms of 10 plus runs percentage. And the Mets are actually even higher if we're talking about probability to score greater than 5 runs, with a 60% chance to score 5 runs or more. So, yeah, I think that probably the way that I'll be looking to go, at least as of now, before anything changes, is Boston or Arizona. Depending on the contest size, larger contests, I'm probably going to want to go Arizona with the Mets. Smaller contest, and by that I still mean probably 500 or 1,000 entry, single entry or something like that. I'd probably want to go Boston with the Mets and go from there. In terms of pitchers, I know we talked a bit about Brown. Snell, always a risky option, projects pretty well for me against Miami. Just has a lot of K upside versus Miami, man. And I hate playing him. I really do hate playing Blake Snell. It's just like the strikeout upside pops so often.
As long as he's not walking guys, like that's the big thing with him. If he doesn't walk guys, he'll be all right. It's just when he starts walking guys and his pitch count goes up, and then you lose the quality start, and then gives up a couple extra runs, and then it all falls apart. Which hopefully doesn't happen against Miami. He was my like mid-range play for pitcher today, so I'm on the same page.
Yeah, man, it's just the wheels could fall off so quickly. You know, it could go give you 2 innings and strike out 4 off the bat, and then all of a sudden it's the third inning and he's at -5 points. It's like what just happened? But
Yeah.
um, George Kirby is up there at 9.2K. I would rather play Snell, as ugly as that sounds. It's not really a very pretty pitching slate.
No.
Alec Manoa as once again another very ugly option, but he is up there for me projection wise. Just gets a good matchup with Milwaukee, and I know we talked about like Rowdy Tellez. Rowdy Tellez will probably hit home run tonight. If you play Manoa, you're probably just hoping that that's just a solo home run because there are a lot of strikeouts in that Milwaukee lineup. But Manoa is just giving up so much power that it's just a matter of how much can he limit the damage. If he can limit the damage significantly, then he could win you a GPP tonight at 8K.
If he can keep the ball down, there might be a chance.
Yeah, but that's been a huge if recently. But he just because of Milwaukee's strikeout upside, like he projects well for me. The floor is like non-existent, but his ceiling is also really high tonight. So, and then to kind of round out what I would say are my top projected pitchers, Paxton against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, like I said, was one of those leverage stacks. So Paxton going to draw a little bit of ownership, not anything too significant though. But he's been throwing pretty well since he came back. I have him projected for about 6 strikeouts against that Cincinnati lineup. And last but not least, Clark Schmidt, 7.7K against Seattle tonight. Has been throwing better as of late, and there's strikeouts to be had against that Seattle lineup as well.
Yeah, I looked a little bit at Schmidt. I don't mind Carrasco today, but like you're kind of hoping and praying with him because there's not the strikeout upside. If he can get the quality start, if he can get the win, like it's doable against Philadelphia just because like they got the bats, but it really hasn't all been there this year. Like Turner's really been struggling. Schwarber's been struggling lately. You know, it's really just Bryce Harper and like Castellanos at this point in time and some of those other guys. So like it's not as scary a lineup as it should be on paper. Obviously, Carrasco pitched pretty well last time out. I know you liked him back then too as well. $7,500, don't really mind going there. Obviously, you're not going to get the strikeouts. If you want to go the strikeout way, you probably go on the Clark Schmidt at 77. Real wild card on this slate could be Dilson Lamet with how cheap he is, but he's coming back off the IL. He's pitching against Arizona. Like, if you really want to start like a crazy leverage play, but like he's another guy that had major control issues when he's been in the rotation before, so who knows at this point? If that slider's there, though, there could be that strikeout upside, but who knows how long he'll even pitch in the game. I believe in his last rehab start, he threw like 68 pitches or something like that, so I wouldn't expect more than 80 today. When you talk about George Kirby and $9,200, I think he's a guy that's just going to be super popular today. There's not really history against the Yankees, which is something that I look into a little bit too as well. I don't get like super excited about George Kirby. Maybe if you're looking for like a potential like leverage stack, maybe that's going a little bit underowned. Maybe the Yankees today.
Interesting. Yeah, I have Kirby as right now second highest projected owned pitcher.
That sounds about right. Him and Brown will probably take up a good chunk, and then it kind of be a little bit hit or miss after that, I feel like.
Yeah, Brown at 28, Kirby at 18. So they're taking up, 46% of pitching ownership on FanDuel. And, those numbers always move when I update this before lock, but I think it's a pretty good representation of where the field is going to be going on pitchers tonight. Yeah, man, it would be a stretch for me to play the Yankees tonight. Like, just for me to plug them in, maybe a few one-offs. Like, I don't know if you got the salary, if you do end up going cheap at pitcher and want to like fit Judge in there or something, like I'm never gonna fault you for playing Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I think Rizzo could be a little bit interesting too as well. but he's had, what was it, like a neck thing where he missed like one day too. Who knows if it's anything major at this point in time. But like, you just wish there was a little bit more oomph in the Yankees lineup at this point in time. It almost feels like, obviously, no Stanton being around for a while now. LeMahieu, he's a guy that can get some hits, but he never really has that strong upside, like especially if you're playing in GPP. So it's just like, it's like Rizzo and Judge. And then like if you get somebody else cheap in there, maybe, but I don't know. It's a hard team to stack, but it's just like kind of as a leverage play against Kirby. I might like try to sneak it in a little bit somewhere, either if it's like a 2 or 3 man stack, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one name to watch out for is Gleyber Torres, and like I'm not stacking the Yankees tonight. You made me dig into it a little bit more, and I'm not stacking them. But like Gleyber Torres, if you need a second baseman, I could see it. Him and Judge are the only two that project in double digits for me in that Yankees lineup, and pitchers against the Yankees, that lineup, like you said, it doesn't have the bite that you associate with the Yankees, but they do still strike out a lot, which is why pitchers have been projecting well against them for me recently. I would say probably, let's see. I would say in terms of stacks, like if you want to stack against a higher owned pitcher, I would stack Milwaukee against Manoah. Manoah is projecting about the same ownership as Kirby.
If you really want to get contrarian, you could even do Minnesota too, because they're not like a super expensive team to stack just in general. Whether you're putting a Joey Gallo, Kirilloff, or even Buxton's like the most expensive guy, and he's not even that expensive too. Like if you just want to go against Hunter Brown and hope it pans out, it's probably not going to pan out 8 out of 10 times, but maybe the 2 out of 10 times that it does.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I think that's I don't know if you ever saw the meme, never go full contrarian. I think we may be getting into full contrarian zone. I would say, I think we're both on the Mets as like top stacks, and I don't think the Mets are going to draw ownership tonight against Nolan.
It's weird. Yeah, and I think it's just because like like the general consensus is people have like this perception of Nola and they're like afraid of him, but like at the same time, Nola gives up home runs. He hasn't pitched well this year. He doesn't pitch good against the Mets except like 1 out of every 5 times. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Mets are contrarian enough. Like even if we're talking the largest slate, or the largest contest on the slate, like I think the Mets are plenty contrarian to go ahead and pair with one of the other top stacks, no matter really where the ownership's at. The Phillies or that would be a game stack. I actually wouldn't do a Phillies Mets game stack. I would probably go Arizona and the Mets, and if I wanted to stack Philly, I'd probably pair them with Cincinnati. But like Marte, Alonso, under 10% owned, under 7% owned, like Alvarez, 1% owned. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to go, just for me personally, I don't think you need to go any more contrarian. I mean, it could happen that one of the better pitchers on the slate gets blown up with Brown or something like that. For me, that would just be a night that I just take my lumps. Like if somebody stacks that and I'm playing SE, or even if I'm playing multiple entries in larger contests, like I'm just gonna lick my wounds and get ready for the next day if that happens. It just doesn't happen often enough. For me, unless I'm playing 150 lineups, in which case, yeah, like the TEXP is going to guide me a little bit in that contrarian direction. But yeah, I would say the 2 combos that probably would get you good leverage and have run real well in my sims are Philly, Cincinnati, and the Mets and Arizona.
Yep. So could be pretty interesting. Like if you've been watching this, we pretty much talked about like all the teams. So it's like it just shows you the variety of the slate tonight too. And I see DFS player 7 here too. So like Baltimore last night, great call. So I think that's the show we were doing together yesterday. You, me, Orange, and would you say the other
Chief.
guy's name? Chief.
Chief. Yep.
Yep. Because I wasn't like as high on Baltimore yesterday, but Baltimore's a team that's sneaky a lot of days.
Yeah, I think they were my second highest stack, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Is it second? Yeah, second.
Mm-hmm.
Second highest stack. I think that's one that Chief and I agreed on. And then I finally got him to talk about the Braves a little bit when he was hesitant to.
Yeah. I was excited for Travis d'Arnaud last night at $2,500, and they didn't even end up starting. I'm just like, I was a little sad over that one.
Yeah, that hurt. He was actually projecting pretty well for me before the lineup came out. But yeah, man, I think we've covered just about every base we can here.
Pretty much. I mean, the only other team I think that could be like a little bit sneaky is Colorado, which I know you guys yesterday is like, well, Colorado ain't been hitting that good, but I mean, I'm just not afraid of Tommy Henry. I like Ryan McMahon. There's not much else to like with Colorado right now, though, honestly. Sneaky play is Charlie Blackmon, though. He's got a 8-game hitting streak. He's hitting like 17 of the last 18 games. Been all right. So he's never too expensive either. So just doesn't have any power anymore.
I was talking down on Colorado yesterday, but I'm actually with you. The Sims don't have them like putting up 10, 15 runs as much as some of the other teams on this slate, but they have the 4th highest % chance of scoring over 5 runs.
That sounds about right. I expect them probably to score like 5-6 runs, but it's just like.
And on this slate, you may not necessarily need, and we said this last time, it was a similar slate last time I was on your show, and you may not necessarily need that 11, 12, 13 runs tonight for a stack in your lineup to win. If you get 6, 7, 8 runs out of your secondary, 6, 7, 8 runs out of your primary stack, you're probably going to be set up pretty well. And then it's just going to come down to your pitcher and where you're at leverage wise, who else is doing what. But I'm with you on Colorado, man. That's a nice inclusion here at the end of the show. Make sure we get them in.
They're still cheap too. Like McMahon's only $3K. Like Chris Bryant, I think still like $2,800. Like he's been down a little bit as of late, but it's still Chris Bryant. Like at the end of the day, like he's still healthy right now.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of ways that we could go on tonight's slate. I think most teams are pretty available at this time. It really just depends on what type of contest you're in. If you're playing single entry 3 max, you probably shouldn't be chasing like Minnesota or something like that. If you're going after 50 max, 150 max or something like that, then that's where you could probably sneak it in just a little bit. I see DFS player 7 here too. So he said the favorite large field GPP stacks, which we talked about quite a bit here. So I think for you it was Minnesota and Arizona with somebody. We talked a lot about the Mets today. So for me,
it's Arizona and the Mets. That would be my favorite large field combo. Large field stack in general would just be the Mets, if you want to start there.
Yeah, I like the Mets quite a bit. Stacking with them, I'll probably just mix and match them with a bunch of different teams, honestly. I think maybe the ownership will give it a little bit higher as the day moves along, but I still think maybe they'll be a little bit underowned just because people have that perception of Aaron Nola once again.
Yeah, we'll see where the ownership goes. I would be, yeah. I mean, I could see it because Nola's not getting really any love in the beginning of the day. Like if Nola was up 10, 15, 20%, then I'd say no, the ownership's not moving. But definitely, I think that we could end up not being the only people in the world on the Mets, and that wouldn't surprise me.
No.
But yeah, I think we're on the same page there in terms of large field, and I mean, they should give you enough leverage where as long as you're not game stacking Philly with the Mets, then you'll be just fine in large field, and you can really do anything with the Mets in like an SE or something like that.
And even if you're stacking one of the more popular teams too, even if you just take a little bit, you got 4 bats from Boston or Arizona or something, and 3 of them are kind of the ones that are chalky, and then one of them is kind of like the guy that's not drawing a lot of ownership at the same time. You could do that as well.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's pretty much what we got for today. If you got anything else to say before we get out of here, Woody, leave it up to you.
No, I think that's about it. I appreciate you having me on again, man. It's always fun. This is our second time, and both times it's been a blast. I had a blast chatting with you yesterday on the stream. So I will go ahead and plug myself real quick here. At StatJockWoody on Twitter is my personal account. You can find all the sims and everything I just talked about, $20 a month, dailystatjocks.com. We got prop betting models, man, really just about anything you need. And if you want to check out some free stuff, I just retweeted it before I came on this stream. Dropped a free rundown for tonight's slate with some sim results and all that good stuff for basically everything that we just talked about on my end for stacks, pitchers, etc. But yeah, man, that's really all I got. Let's go take something down tonight.
Yeah, definitely appreciate having you on once again. Before we get out of here, I'll do all the little pandering. If you guys have any additional questions, if you're watching this on replay, feel free to leave it down in the comments. Get back to you as quickly as possible. If any major thing changes weather-wise throughout the day, I'll leave it down in the comments. I'll try to throw as many starting lineups down throughout the day down in the comments as well. So just make sure you're checking up as we do get closer to lock for all those updates. If anything does change with like the core picks that I did have listed here, I'll leave a pinned comment and say, hey, this guy's not playing. Try to put this guy in instead, or I'll recommend him. So like Matt Chapman's not playing, try using this guy instead or whatever. But obviously a lot of that does come down to you guys and everything else like that. Like I said, good day to mix and match. Once again, smaller slate. If you're checking the video out for the very first time, first of all, welcome and do appreciate having you in. If you do like the content that I am putting out, feel free to subscribe. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the channel that I'm trying to build here. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. Right now, it's mainly DFS, MLB DFS, and USFL DFS. So if you're into either one of those, which I'm guessing you're at least in MLB since you're watching this video, this live stream, definitely be sure that you're subscribed. You have that notification bell turned on so you never miss a beat. And then with that being said, do appreciate everyone that did come in, check out the video, the live stream today, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to myself, means a lot to Woody that you guys are checking out. Be sure to check out his site over at dailystatjocks.com. Like he said, $20 a month, you get WNBA, you get some NBA, you get MLB. So you get a lot of different simulations there. One of the better values that is out there at this point in time. So definitely be sure to check that out. Even if you just check it out, try it out for a month. If it's not for you, that's fine. It's less than $1 a day at the end of the day. So definitely one that I would recommend in general. But with that being said, that's pretty much what we do have at this point in time. Hopefully each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.